So today is back to push and calves. The best day, I think. Well, I don't really have a favorite, but I mean, it's definitely a good chest pump. I mean, a good chest pump day is a good day, I'll tell you that. I'm going to start off with these calves, seated calves. Now, in my head, of course, I want to go straight to the some type of like heavy press, but I know that using my mental energy when it's at its peak for calves, which is something I'm trying to grow. I mean, and I guess in my own theory, training the calves first is going to make them grow faster over time. Just simple logic of if I put them at the end of the workout, then I'm not going to have as much mental effort driven into the calves. Hopefully that makes sense. But let's just start with these seated calves, and we'll get on to leg press calves, and then we'll get on to the actual bigger movements for the day. Oh, also, I did this, if you know what a pendulum squat is, I did it on the leg day 2 days ago, and oh my God, my quad, and more specifically my medialis, is like damaged to the point where I feel like I have to go to the hospital or something. I obviously don't have to actually go to the hospital, but my medialis, like this lower part, this like teardrop part of my quad, I mean, it feels like it got hit by a goddamn truck, you know? Just unbelievably sore. Not that the workout is only focused on how sore I get, but I mean, it is an indicator in my brain if the sets was good, So let's just warm up on this. The usual 1 plate, 2 plate, and then we'll get into a heavier set version or a straight leg version. That's it, man. And I'm hoping that, I mean, it feels right now, that the pad is going to be doable when the max load is on the bar on my quad, because once again it is very sore, but I think it'll kind of loosen up over time. Sometimes I'll do like 2 sets in one, so I'll do like 10 reps or whatever, and then I'll get back under the same weight, and I just want to kind of feel it again for a couple more, just to make sure, it feels all right. Yeah, so now it feels different the second time around. If you've done it, you know what I mean. And then once you do that, then move up in weight. And you can do that for any exercise. So maybe you do 135 on the bench, 1 set, 10 reps just to warm up, and then you stay there. You do it again, and then you do it again for a couple reps just to make sure. I guess it's kind of like another like nervous system feeler, if that kind of makes sense, because the muscle just felt it, it's warm, but the second time around you feel it right away, it's lighter. So I guess what I'm trying to say is the second time around it feels lighter. So you can try that, or you can just do 1 plate, 2 plate, just warm up a little bit, and be all right. You don't want to over warm up. It's not about fatiguing yourself before the set or the main sets that actually count. So I'm just going to do this, and then I'm pretty much ready to go for my heavy set. I mean, not anything. I wouldn't overcomplicate it. I mean, the muscle responds to overload, so just go hard. Feel the muscle. I mean, don't just throw it around on a bench. I mean, you want to kind of feel the stretch, and then the sensation of a pressure, contraction at the peak, and do as many as you can. I wouldn't overcomplicate the super slow eccentrics or whatever. Grow if you train them hard enough. I mean, Doesn't mean you're gonna have gigantic calves, but they're definitely gonna grow more than if you didn't train them, you know? I mean, if you have absolute sticks, I mean, you didn't hit the genetic lottery, that's for sure, but you can at least get a thicker stick, you know? So. Oh. So as many as you got, like to the top. I mean, you're not gonna get to the very, very top as if you weren't using any weight. I think if you want that crazy peak contraction, you might be missing out on how much load you can put on your calves, because you're gonna have to lighten it a lot to get to that peak, like on your toes contraction, as if there was no weight there. Hopefully that makes sense there. But I guess what I'm trying to say is, if you do a 70 to 80% range, but you have another full plate on, I mean, I think that might be more beneficial potentially, but just kind of, I mean, you're going by a sensation, and you're also going by, I mean, a tension sensation that you feel through the calves. And then you're using the pump after as kind of like a side effect. So that's the set done there. I'm gonna move on to a leg press, I guess gastrocnemius, we'll call it. Emphasized calf raise. So the seated calf raise is more of a soleus exercise. At least that's what, the science says. Now, I mean, do I feel it in my upper calf? Yeah, but the soleus also goes under the gastrocnemius, which is the gastrocnemius is that ball up top. So I would just do a seated version and a standing version just to hit both heads of the calf. At least that's what we think. If we're gonna bring in a little bit of science, I think you want to use a little bit of science and then a little bit of just your own, I guess you call it bro science now, but your own experience. So a little bit of a combination of both of them, So just gonna kind of, I mean, the calves are already warmed up at this point. I just want to make sure the movement feels weird, because this standing or this straight-legged version does put a little bit of different stress on like the back of the knee. At least that's what I think. So as I'm moving through, I mean, the heels drop down a little bit, and then I go a little bit above parallel. I'm not going to sacrifice the weight just to get that extra peak contraction, because I think it's going to limit how much I can grow my calves. That's what I think, but just train hard, you'll be all right. The pre-workout meals were 2 protein bars for breakfast and 2 protein bars for the second meal. I wouldn't say that's ideal, but I don't know if I don't care. I just don't really think it makes a difference to me. If I just eat something and it has, the right protein, carb, fat ratio, whatever, it doesn't really affect me too much. The hydration will definitely affect me. So that's kind of the main thing that I think about. Like right in the morning, I fill up, I mean, I guess it's something close to this, but I would drink like 3 cups of water. I don't know the ounces of it, but maybe it's like 30 ounces of water. Probably a full one of these, I would say, right in the morning, just to break the fast. kind of get the oil going in the car, you know what I mean? That's kind of like the process when as I'm drinking it. Kind of like lubricating the arteries. Oh, oh my God. If your feet aren't on fire, then you're not training them correctly. Feet up to the back of the knee. Should be pumped, and feels like there's battery acid kind of floating in there. Now, I've never had battery acid in my calves, but if I did, that's kind of the sensation that you're going for. Done on calves. Let's move on to the main pressing stuff. Now, I think people have two different types of pressing style. You can either flare the elbows, I guess the bodybuilding press you would call it, or you can tuck them in a little bit. I don't think it really matters too much as long as your elbows aren't super close, because you do want to get a stretch on the pec. And since the insertion of the pec inserts into the humerus here, you should be able to feel it if you're lean. Then to lengthen it from the origin, you gotta have it far. But like this, it's not as much as a stretch. So you gotta flare it a little bit. So, and if you're gonna take one thing from this chest video, it is when you're coming down, trying to bring my chest to the bar, not bringing the bar to the. If you're gonna take one thing from this chest video, it's gonna be to bring your chest to the bar as you're coming down, not the other way around. I'm not thinking bring the bar to my chest, because then my chest can cave in. I mean, subconsciously, the entire time when you're coming down, I'm keeping the chest high. And even at the bottom, once I go to press, I'm trying to grab pec right away, and I'm keeping my chest as high as possible. That'll be the simplest cue to keep your chest activated, we'll call it, during the press. Got no idea how many I'm gonna get. Just gonna, resist on the way down, press as hard as I fucking can on the way up. Holy shit. I don't know why. I gotta figure out why that was so much heavier than usual. I'm gonna move on to, I don't know, something. Usually I would just do like that last rep, like a full rep, but I mean, I didn't really feel like I got enough out of it at that point, so I was like, fuck it, let me just do like half reps on this thing. I don't think I've ever really done that, so I don't know. I was just trying to destroy my chest any possible way at that point. But I'm gonna move on because I'm not really too excited about that one. So now, if I were to think back on exactly why I don't feel super strong, at least for that, I mean that's 100. If that really is 175 when I only got 4 or 5, then that's total dog shit, at least for me. But I do feel a little bit beat down from just like weeks and months of pushing hard. So this might be a call for a couple of days off, but we'll just gonna play it by ear and see. So these type of workouts happen once in a while, but it just further confirms to me that these workouts are a lot more stressful than we think. At least when you're training like an absolute animal, you know, absolute failure, absolute mental destruction, you know, that type of thing. But it further confirms to me some things that I've been hearing about. You know, Mike Menser talking about how the stimulus is only one part of it. You must recover in order to further the muscle gains, I guess we'll call it in my way. And I can feel it like there's a deep sensation of fatigue. So I'm just gonna finish out this workout and then I'm gonna just kind of think about it after and see what I'm gonna do for my recovery thought process. The best thing to do would probably be just to take a couple of days off and then increase calories and try and do the opposite of being super stressed out training. If you don't have this pec fly, you can do a dumbbell fly, but I don't know. I just like the machine stuff for the flies, or a cable fly. Cable fly is good too. But if all you have is dumbbells, then you gotta just. I mean, the only difference is to me is that you kind of have to mentally contract your chest. I mean, at certain points of the lift, like once you get to here, you kind of have to do the squeezing yourself. But if you're, you know, advanced enough, we'll call it, then you should have no problem doing it. I don't think it really matters too much unless you just have a preference, and then if you don't have the machine that you like, you might not put as much effort into it, but just go hard and you'll be fine. I think that's kind of the thing that I'm trying to preach, is that if you do all out sets on machines or movements, like free weight movements that are just designed for that muscle group, I think you're gonna be fine, man. You're gonna get 90% out of it, at least. The last 10% is just little changes. But try and get stronger over time, and yeah, I think you're gonna be all right. I mean, you want to get stronger every workout, but sometimes it can be difficult to do that, at least for like the average person, you know? Someone who's not an absolute menace in the gym, who's an absolute determined machine, you know? Oh, you know, that was actually pretty good. I'm actually decently happy with that. All right, let's see how this goes. So at this point, I'm a little bit mentally checked out, but the good news is that I think I have a good idea of how to fix it. Just gonna take some extra days off, gonna increase calories back. Because I started my deficit probably like 2 weeks ago, and I've been pushing it like pretty hard. And then combination with training like super, super hard, body can get beat down. So just kind of explaining my thought process on what I'm gonna do going forward with whatever, like how many days a week I train, and the recovery ability is gonna vary between different people. Just like some people go out in the sun for 5 minutes and get burned, and some people can stay in the sun for, hour, 2 hours and be fine, just get like a perfect tan. The stress of the sun can vary between different people. So one person might be able to do 10 sets for chest. Another person might only be able to do 3 sets of chest. I mean, obviously it's going to vary depending upon how hard you're training, but you get what I'm saying. It's going to vary between how much that person can recover. So oh, 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 that's a good set. I think a good way to know if you're a little bit beat down, you got to be able to distinguish the difference between, being a pussy and actually needing more rest. If you're somebody who's always unmotivated, then you probably should just go to the gym anyway, because it's gonna be hard to dictate or determine which route your brain is going. But for someone who really trains hard, then you would have to. There's a deep sensation of fatigue, and also along with that is a lower motivation. So if you have a little bit less motivation or desire to go to the gym, then take 1, 2, 3, 4 days off. You could even take a week off. Most likely you're probably overdoing it. Because again, you got to think about it. After you train, you look at your hands and they're shaking. Who says you don't need 2 days after each workout to actually fully recover? So you're not going to shrink from taking an extra. You're not even going to shrink. You take a week off. There's not really a downside, as long as you're okay with not going to the gym. I guess that's the one downside. You gotta. I guess it's. Do you care about going to the gym more, or do you care about getting the most amount of results? I guess that's kind of the thought process. And some people can go to the gym every day, and they don't seem to get fatigued. I don't think that's most people. I think most people do get fatigued, and they do need rest time. So, something to think about. Recovery cannot be underestimated. It's 50% of the goddamn process. So, I mean, this is just sending the signal. If you don't recover, then the signal means nothing. And it's truly, that's what that means. If you don't recover, the stimulus doesn't mean anything. It didn't have time to fully overcompensate. This is just the breakdown process. Stimulate, recover, overcompensate. If you don't overcompensate, then you never grow. So that's why, well, that's where taking the extra day or two off, if you think you need it, is extremely beneficial. Now, I could have easily not trained today, but some reason, I mean, not for some reason, I wanted to come in. I thought I could. Again, it's hard to distinguish the difference between like once you start warming up, you might feel really good. You might feel like total dog shit, you know? Let's just see what's gonna happen here. Go up to 11 plates on this, and I don't know. Let's just see how it goes, man. Oh, it's too late. It's too late. All right, change the plans. Let's go up to 13. I'm just gonna do one more exercise. The the easy bar skull crusher, which cannot be beat by many exercises. Come on. Those like anterior tibialis, front of the calf. So last night I was definitely starving, and I decided to go to CVS. And I mean, like deep down in my head, I was like, I'm not gonna have the entire bag of Doritos. I'm gonna stick with my diet, you know? Like that type of thought process. If you've dieted, you know what I'm talking about. You almost like play a little trick on yourself. You're like I can do it. You almost wanna go to CVS to like challenge yourself and make yourself feel like you're being disciplined, you know? Like someone who like goes out in like a bar or something and they like purposely don't drink and then they come back and they almost feel like they like were disciplined, you know? Like that type of thought process, I guess. I don't know if that one made sense, but in my head it made sense. So like I'm going to CVS to, you know, like get Doritos, but I'm gonna weigh it out and I'm not gonna have the whole bag. And then you start having like you start rationalizing the idea of having the whole bag, you know. And then you get a Ben and Jerry's, and you're like, oh, I'll have a little bit of that, a little bit of that, and that'll be good. And I actually did pretty good. I had like half a bag of Doritos, probably a little bit over a half a bag, and then some Ben and Jerry's, probably half the Ben and Jerry's or somewhere around there. And I thought and I did that because I was feeling a bit fatigued. But looking back, I think the main problem was that I was just training too often for the type of effort that I was putting in. Like, since it's just all or none with my mind, I need like mental recovery as well. Like my central nervous system, and I guess if I'm gonna bro science it, maybe there's some science behind this, but like my adrenal, I'm having like adrenal fatigue. I almost feel like I can't get my adrenaline going, no matter how much I tap into my brain for like, trying to like get amped for the set. So I'm kind of using that as a sign that I need more rest. And what I'm gonna do is I'm probably going to increase calories. I'm gonna eat those Doritos for sure. I'm gonna eat the Ben and Jerry's, and I'm just gonna chill for, I don't know, until I feel like I'm actually ready. So I look at a lot of like Dorian Yates stuff and Mike Mentzer, like I was talking about. And Dorian Yates was talking about doing 6 weeks on, 2 weeks off type of training. 6 weeks all out, and then there's a recovery phase of 2 weeks. Now I think I'm doing the 6 weeks, and then I'm just not taking the 2 weeks. That's kind of what I feel like I'm doing. Well, I hate using the word feel, whatever, sensation, So I think I need to implement some rest days because I don't want to, like the style of training that I like is all out. So I'd rather just take some extra days off or whatever than, because I'm not doing many sets, but I think they're so hard on my nervous system. At least that's what I'm kind of thinking, just from my own experience of lifting for the past like 8 years or however long it's been. Kind of learning as I go, but I do think after like a month or so of really hard training, it starts to get to you a little bit, and you have to rest a little bit. That's for like the super all out life or death type of style of training. If you know, you know. If you're just exercising, then you don't really need to be thinking like that. But if you're really training all out, like how I think I would like to think I do, then I think the recovery is big. So I think I'm going to try and implement, can't even say a word properly, some rest days or whatever. I'm trying, but I do 1 day on, 1 day off. That's kind of my style right now. But even with that, I don't know how people train every day. I would be dead in like 3 days. I guess this is the style of training that I'm doing. But there's a lot of mental exhaustion when it comes to like the lower volume, all out training. And I try to just tell myself that taking the extra days is only going to benefit me, but then you end up coming to the gym anyway, because you just want to train. You think training harder is going to make you beat the next guy, like that type of thought process. But I don't think that's the case. I'm going to try and tell myself that the recovery is a big process to this journey of trying to make gains, So nothing more to be said. I guess, fuck the protein bars. I'm having those Doritos. So